Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. Look, I am so excited to have baseball back. I know we've been talking about football a ton on this channel as of late, but baseball has always been my number one love, and Major League Baseball season is back, and I am beyond thrilled, especially with my Pirates playing as good as they are by the time this video is going up. And it is time to kind of brush off a classic and give credit to a league that got us through the worst of the pandemic. Today we're talking about the KBO, the Korean Baseball Organization. This is a league that we all came to know and fall in love with at the start of the 2019 COVID-19 pandemic, because for a hot minute there in 2020, this was the only sporting league that was going on kind of like around the world, not even just in baseball, but this was really it as far as like organized professional sports went. Everyone was tuning into the KBO and kind of learning about these teams, falling in love with this league, and coming to appreciate everything that this league had to offer. It's so much different than Major League Baseball as far as like having this nonstop party atmosphere where you can go to these games. There's cheerleaders, there's songs, there's bat flips, all of kind of this bravado and showmanship is present in the KBO. So much to love about this league, so much to love about the Korean Baseball Organization, and it is time to just give credit where it's due and pay homage to a league that really got us through the worst of the pandemic. And so today we're going to pay our respects to this incredible league by talking about all of the logos, all of the teams here in the KBO. There are a total of 10 teams, and so we're going to take it down from 10 to 1 as far as ranking the primary logos for the KBO from worst to first. And I gotta give a little caveat before we get too far into this. I don't speak Korean, and so my pronunciations are just bound to be a little off as we get into this here. But that being said, I'm gonna give it my best effort into correctly identifying and describing each of these teams here. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. We're talking about the primary logos for the KBO league from worst to first, which at number 10 is going to give us the Doosan Bears out of Seoul, Korea. Now, just as another caveat before we get too far into this, I really hope that you guys are prepared for logos that are round or baseball shaped with the team name kind of plastered in front of that round baseball element, because there's a lot of those specific types of logos in this league, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. In fact, it's kind of a strong indicator of like, okay, we know that we're looking at a baseball team because we can see a baseball element or at least like a round backing element with the team name in front. So, you know, it's a strong indicator for looking at these logos of like, I've never heard of this team, I don't know what it's about, but I know I'm getting into a baseball team. So I do think that those kind of elements are strong and relevant for, you know, kind of implementing into your primary baseball logo for a baseball team. It makes sense, but those types of logos are about a dime a dozen in this league. And so in this particular case here with the Doosan Bears from Seoul, there's just not a lot to really love about this kind of logo, because the Bears is just kind of in this varsity athletic font, which is all well and good, but Doosan and Seoul are in two different fonts as well, and they're just black text, not a lot of like interesting elements to look at. This kind of just bears more resemblance to maybe like a community little league team, which sounds really harsh to say, but that is the vibe that I get from this, because it does just feel very bare bones, minimal effort based on just like the fonts that are just so like Microsoft Word looking, just really not a lot to love. But I will say I really like the colors on this with that navy blue and the red and the white and the black. You know, the colors are doing a lot for me, and they're kind of the only thing that's kind of carrying this, because I won't say that this is a bad logo, but I will say that it's a bit uninspired. That said, I still love this league, and even the logos that we're going to talk about here at the bottom, again, credit where credit's due. The KBO is awesome, and there's just a lot to love about this league and about these teams, but someone had to be last, and at number 10, unfortunately, that went to the Doosan Bears. At number 9, let's take a look at the Kiwoom Heroes. This is another team that plays in Seoul. In fact, they play at the Gocheok Sky Dome, which was the home of the recent 2024 Korea Series, which actually where MLB kind of kicked off between the Padres and Dodgers. So a lot of people saw this stadium and kind of got introduced, or I should say reintroduced to the KBO in this way at the start of the 2024 season. For me personally, I was waking up at 5 a.m. to watch those games, just kind of like reinforced my love for the KBO. And so again, credit where credit is due with the KBO. But talking about this logo in particular, ditto a little bit what we said about the Bears in the sense that we can see a baseball element in the background with a rounded shape and a literal baseball. But again, just not a ton kind of keeping us interested here with this logo. You know, it's just kind of like the team name in front of a baseball, but this one is far more interesting than the Bears as far as like the font goes for Kiwoom. The fact that it's got kind of like a 3D effect going onto it at an angle, I think looks really nice. But we do have a lot of like redundant text. We see Kiwoom Heroes up top, so we see the word Kiwoom twice, and we also see Heroes twice because on the bottom it says Seoul Heroes Baseball Club. Just a lot of like redundant text that we don't really need. I feel like we can get rid of Kiwoom Heroes up top and Seoul Heroes Baseball Club across the bottom and make this a little bit stronger because, yeah, there's just a text overload. You have to really love a baseball element in the background to fall in love with these logos, which is why at number 8, the Samsung Lions have kind of like very similar energy here. This does look a lot better to me in the sense that it's less text and the actual Lions font, we're starting to get into just a lot better fonts. That's kind of what this is coming down to. Very similar in color to the Detroit Lions, and kind of a coincidence that the team name is also the Lions as well. But that blue and gray are so strong. This looks fantastic for colors. Another caveat, there seems to be a lot of caveats with the KBO. A lot of these teams are obviously sponsored by an actual corporate sponsorship, and if that wasn't obvious, a Samsung, quite obvious, a sponsor, a corporation that most of us know. And that's not going to factor into our rankings today. Obviously, it does look a little kind of cheesy. There might be a better way to phrase that, but coming from an American perspective, having your team name be an actual corporate sponsor, it just doesn't really feel right. We just don't really see that in North American sports a whole lot. And so again, that's not going to factor into our rankings here today, although I will say I'm not a huge fan of that. I get it. I understand like the sponsorship aspect of this league, so I don't have to love it, but I do understand why it's there. It's obviously just a way to kind of generate revenue and help keep this league thriving. And yeah, that's a good segue into our number 7 pick. This is the Kia Tigers. This is the first logo that we're taking a look at that's breaking the mold of having like a baseball rounded element in the background. This has kind of more of like a home plate sort of vibe to it, with a really nice deep red font across the front for Tigers. I love that font that they're using, and it's got a nice arch to it as well, and I'm a huge fan of that. With baseball club across the bottom, and maybe this is the only time where baseball club kind of feels a little bit more appropriate to use, because again, we are lacking that baseball rounded element in the background. This kind of gives maybe more of like a vibe of like an actual car, like the Kia Tigers could be like the model for a car, could be a stretch, but without the baseball club across there at the bottom, it's kind of hard to tell that this is a baseball logo. So I'm actually okay with baseball club being in the actual primary logo for this. Doesn't offend me so much, because again, overall, this looks very, very strong. Love that use again with the red, the white, and the navy blue. Very strong effect, especially when combined with that kind of home plate element in the background. Yeah, Kia Tigers, this looks fantastic. And at number 6, let's take a look at another kind of like blatantly corporate sponsored team here. This is the LG Twins out of Seoul. This team actually shares the same stadium as the Doosan Bears that we talked about at number 10. But unlike the Bears, the Twins actually have a really, really nice logo. Again, we can see kind of like a baseball themed element in the background, but instead of being a baseball that we've been seeing or a home plate that we just talked about with the Tigers, we can see the actual like kind of infield of the actual stadium itself, with the rounded outfield up top coming down to the point at the bottom where home plate is. And then laid over top of that is the team name in a really nice font with LG up top, Seoul across the bottom. I love the way this looks. This is a fantastic logo, and is definitely a more creative use of using a baseball themed element in the background. This would be so easy to put a baseball across the back, but instead it is just, again, the actual layout of the baseball field. And I mean, what a strong choice. That looks incredible. And I love the banner down there with Seoul too, how it's kind of angled to sort of match the way that the first and third base lines of that stadium turf shape are going. I just think that's incredible. And with the colors too, I mean, you could talk about colors on these logos all day. I think these are fantastic colors. That red really shines through. And yeah, the Twins, the LG Twins specifically out of Seoul, killer logo. A big fan of this. But let's crack into the top half of our ranking here at number 5. This is the Hanwha Eagles, and we can see a trend where we're kind of reverting back to what we were talking about at some of the lower end logos in this ranking, with a baseball element, a rounded shape with a baseball in the background there. But the reason we rank this one higher, again, just the colors on this really pop. I love the black, orange, and white, and then the actual Eagles font is the best we've seen so far, with an eagle popping out of that E. What a cool look. I love the way that looks. That eagle is so fierce and so strong, and kind of combining it into the actual primary logo or the team name, that font, that Eagles, really stands out. It's so strong. But again, I'm not a huge fan of having all that texting Hanwha Eagles up at the top and then Pro Baseball Club across the bottom. Yeah, we see Eagles twice, and we know it's a baseball club because we can see a baseball in the background. So I'm not crazy about all the text as a whole. I think this is so strong. Really kind of holding on just from the effort that Eagles font is giving. What an incredible font, and that eagle coming off the E. Awesome look. Yeah, this is so strong, and definitely one of the best of the baseball background logos that we're going to talk about today. I love the way this looks. At number 4, let's take a look at the Lot Giants. This is a team that's kind of making a sneaky run at the top half and into our number 4 spot here because, again, I feel like I'm a broken record here. We can see a rounded element in the background with the team name across the front. This one does not have a baseball. It's kind of got like a blank negative space there, but it gives the impression of a baseball team, again, which is the rounded element in the background. Fantastic font for the team name, the Giants. It kind of has this like negative space with a line running through each letter of Giants for Giants, and I love the way that looks. It kind of gives it like a vintage, almost like a Tron sort of 1980s neon look to it, and I'm a big fan of the way that looks and kind of the energy that gives. And then with the blue arch across the top and the red arch across the bottom, really kind of makes this thing stand out to me. Just a lot of visually interesting elements going on, especially compared to some of the other similar logos to this with the team name across the front of a rounded element. I just really love the way the Giants are utilizing their team name. I probably should mention though, although I don't want to, we see Lot Giants in an arch across the top, and then we see Lot Giants in red across the front, and then we can see the established date on the bottom. I'm not the craziest fan of having the established date or like a date in your primary logo. I feel like that can kind of like date your logo a little bit, and it also just kind of muddies it up with having just a little too much text. I think overall the LG Twins have been the best logo that we've looked at for having just a minimal amount of text. I feel like the KBO just gets a little too text heavy. I just really like how simple and clean this Giants logo is, especially again with that negative space going through the text of Giants. Just gives it that really cool like 80s Tron effect, and I'm a big fan of it. Yeah, it's kind of a sleeper pick in the KBO for primary logos. Also, shout out to the Giants. This team was formed in 1975. They did join in 1982, but the founding in 1975 makes this the oldest team in the KBO, so a little tip of the cap to the Giants for that regard. At number 3, we're going to go with the NC Dinos, and I gotta say there is a bit of bias with this logo because when I started watching the KBO in 2020, when most of the world was watching the KBO in 2020, this was the team that I picked at the beginning of the season as my favorite KBO team just because of I just simply loved the colors on this logo, and I also just really liked their uniforms. I just kind of loved everything about the NC Dinos as a whole. I'm almost certain that they played in the first game of the KBO that I actually watched, so I just picked one of the two teams that was playing. I just liked the Dinos more in that particular game, and I just kind of went with it and ran with it. So I will just admit that personal bias. This is my team in the KBO, and it just so happens the only KBO championship they won was in 2020, so I kind of got a ride or die with the NC Dinos. I think that this looks fantastic, and in my opinion, it is the best of the baseball rounded element logos in this league because they are kind of a dime a dozen, and I gotta say the NC Dinos, in my opinion, do it the best. So shout out to my 2020 KBO team and my KBO team going forward. Huge Dinos fan, but I have them at number 3, which means we've got a number 2 and 1 spot. And getting into those at number 2, we've got the KT Wiz. This is actually the newest team in the KBO. They're founded in 2013, joined in 2015, and yeah, what a banger logo they are using. Clearly a break from the mold of having like a rounded baseball element in the background. I promise I'm not going to say rounded baseball element anymore going forward in this video here. They have this really unique shield look to this with a baseball down at the bottom kind of coming out of the bottom point as almost like a rising sun kind of look to it. This is what I mean when I say that logos are just better off without having baseball club or repeating the team name over and over again or having the word baseball in there. Show a baseball, let us know that we're looking at a baseball team, and then you can do whatever you want with the rest. And in this case, the KT Wiz showing off this really awesome badge look with almost like it looks like a New England Patriots kind of swooping in sort of like silhouette face with like a diamond at it up top. I love that like face is red, really makes it stand out from the black and white, and it matches the laces on the baseball down at the bottom. Great use of color, great use of shape. This is a very unique kind of badge shape to it. And the KT Wiz, man, this is killing it. What a banger logo, and it really makes this stand out, as far as just being so much different from the other logos that we've looked and talked about. I still think that there's one better, and at number 1, that's going to be the SSG Landers. And so the logo that we're looking at here truly, to me, has like the most like major league look to it, in the sense that this could just be ripped right out of the KBO, put into a Major League Baseball expansion, and completely fit the part. This looks right where it needs to. And in fact, the logo that we're kind of looking at here with Landers Landers in this really awesome 3D pop-out effect, again with a unique background here, is actually kind of a remake from a logo that they were using a few years ago, which I kind of like better, truth be told. But I would still keep obviously this current logo, the primary that we're talking about today, at number 1. But this flying saucer UFO look kind of like coming down and sort of like capturing the team name, the SSG Landers here. This is like one of the coolest logos in baseball that we've ever talked about, not even just on this channel, but one of the coolest logos that I've ever seen. You know, this current version that they sort of like changed to, still very cool, definitely still the best in the KBO and worthy of this number 1 spot here. I love the yellow and the tiny little bit of green on that star that's kind of like marking the bottom part of the L for Landers, and it's matched up there with the baseball up top and that yellow coming down sort of above the E. So we know again that we're looking at a baseball team because we can see a baseball there. This gives me like a Las Vegas vibe, something about like the stars, the kind of like neon look to the team name, the Landers, the fact that it's kind of popping out. It's like fun and festive, and it kind of has like, yeah, just a very Vegas-y look to it. Without a doubt, the best logo in the KBO, but still just like banger logos across this league as a whole. The KBO kind of kicked off recently too, just like Major League Baseball did. And I gotta say, like, I've been kind of like keeping tabs on the standings of the KBO. It is so much fun to watch. I strongly encourage anyone out there, if you're a baseball fan, you watch the KBO in 2020. Definitely do keep up with it. There are fantastic teams and so much talent in the KBO currently. Major League Baseball is back. KBO has been back for about a week or so, and I just couldn't be happier. This is, you know, the best time sports-wise going on. We got the Final Four happening. Major League Baseball is right in the swing of things. Pun absolutely intended. I am just so excited for baseball to be back, and so shout out to a real one. Shout out to the KBO. Got us through the pandemic and still out there absolutely kicking ass. I love this league. A personal favorite of mine outside of Major League Baseball. I've linked their website in the description. Definitely go check them out. Pick a team. Let me know down in the comments which of these teams is your favorite. Not even just talking about the logos. Which of these teams do you like the most? But yeah, I would love to hear your opinion on which of these logos you like the most. And if you guys are down for various baseball leagues for me to talk about, let me know, because I watch a ton of baseball. I watch leagues from all over the world. And so if there's a league that you're dying to have highlighted or focused in on this channel, let me know down in the comments below. Until then, thank you so much for clicking. Thank you so much for hanging out. Shout out KBO. We will see you guys in the next video.